Alex in the back and Chris or Roberts, who's not here. I'm here. There he is. Robert's there. He'll do 911. And then of course, as we've briefed before, our primary evacuation route out of this will be the double wooden doors to the stairwell next to the elevator bank, and we'll pop ourselves out the front, muster out the front. Just also, in addition to yourself getting out of here, if we have to evacuate the space, look to your right, help the person out to your right. I did also want to just mention from a safety moment perspective, and this is something that it's that time of year, and we're sharing this with our passengers as well. This is a good time of year just to be thinking about, and the topic is sensible shoes. Just while you're out there, with inclement weather and stuff like that, sensible shoes, things that, thank you for the prop. Obviously with ice and snow and all those types of things. I mean, if you get on our train, it's this time of year where folks have a couple of pairs of shoes with them to safely navigate the walking portion of their trip and stuff like that. So just want to bring that out to you folks as well. That's my safety moment.
Sure. Okay, thank you, Rich. Next item is approval of the agenda. Is there a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? The motion carries. Next, we'll approve the minutes from our November 17th meeting. Are there any corrections or amendments to those minutes? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve the minutes?
Move for approval.
Moved.
Second.
Seconded. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. All right, welcome everyone to our December Operations Board meeting. Just one note, registration is now open for the Virginia Transit Association's annual Transit and Rail Advocacy Day, which is followed by a reception at Richmond's historic Main Street station. Anyone who's interested can register. It's January 22nd. You can register at vatransit.com. Exciting event on January 22nd in Richmond. Before we start the meeting, I do want to just make a few comments because we have two long tenured operations board members who will be leaving our board at the end of this year. Matt Kelly and Janine Lawson, neither of whom could make it here today, but we do have plaques that we will be getting to them. Matt, as many of you know, has represented the city of Fredericksburg as either an alternate or a member of this board since 2007. He took a brief break in 2011 and 2013. When he first joined as an alternate, VRE was preparing to open its garages at Burke Center and Manassas Station, the Burke Center garage I'm very familiar with. In 2010, his first year as a member, Spotsylvania County joined PRTC and became a VRE participating jurisdiction. And, I'll just say personally, I'm sure others share this, Matt's institutional knowledge over the last 4 years has been really invaluable to us as we went through some real challenges. The selection of our CEO, dealing with COVID and the aftermath of COVID and our exciting plans for the future of the system. Matt has been integral to all of that. In 2015, Janine Lawson joined the board as an alternate from Prince William County. And when she became a board member in 2019, she served 3 terms on the executive committee as treasurer, secretary, and vice chair. And Janine's contributions in the last 4 years have also been very significant with the exciting work taking place at the Broad Run station that she has helped to spearhead. She was also a key member of our CEO search committee and selection committee that helped us make the decision to hire Rich as a permanent CEO. And as they both leave our board, we know that their contributions have helped us make VRE what it is. And laid the foundation for our very exciting future. And as I noted, we do have plaques that we will make sure to get them. And I'm sure at some point we will be seeing and hearing from both of them. So if you see Matt and Janine, please express our appreciation and thanks to their service.
Yeah.
And with that, I'll turn it over to Rich for the CEO's report.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just wanted to report out on the safety topic. The couple of pictures up there to your left depicts VRE staff getting, in a lot of cases, retrained, and in some cases trained in first aid, CPR, life-saving techniques and stuff. As you know, at VRE, safety is paramount, and it dives down, and a lot of that has to do with the training and stuff that we do. Basically, all staff at some point participate in this training and stuff. So we had a session earlier this month to recertify and to certify new staff members. This is one point out to the right. We did last month also host some very important first responder training. This is actually the SWAT team from Stafford County. And so as I continue, as our team continues to push that interaction with our local jurisdictions, hopefully we never have to use any of this, but preparation is also paramount, in addition to safety being paramount or part of that. So just wanted to highlight that. On-time performance system-wide, 87%, again, slightly below our target of 90%. And I've showed you this graph over the last couple of months where we were hitting some lows in the month of, July and August, even into September, but our overall system performance is ticking up. Note the 91% on the Fredericksburg line. That's the first time we've hit above 90% in several months. So it's trending in a positive way. Again, this is the table that sort of sorts that out. I'm flipping here because I want to point out from the top two categories, congestion and switch and signal issues. A lot of those switch and signal issues that we were encountering, and the congestion back in September, which was continuation from the summer and stuff, as I reported, were coming out of Washington Union Terminal, as you could see over the last couple of months. That has deteriorated in a good way, and so that had a direct impact in getting our overall system performance up. We're not obviously satisfied. Our target is above 90%, and we collectively strive for that. And when I say that, that's a whole host of people, not just VRE staff. That's all concerned. We also get VPRA staff involved in this because it impacts state-sponsored trains and even Amtrak trains in the corridors. So anyway, trending in a positive way. Our overall monthly ridership slightly down from October. Not a surprise. The month of November starts softening on us and into December. I will note that the direct comparison between November and October, albeit the number of service days is the same, but November we had 19 full service days and 2 scheduled days, as compared to October, that all 21 of those days were full service days. So, and of course, the average daily ridership reflects that. Also wanted to highlight first ever time that VRE's ventured into the parade float business. I think last month I showed you the first locomotive being manufactured in the new life cycle overhaul and upgrade facility. Well, that was the product of it. It turned out, obviously, we thought was the best float out of the 75 or 80. That was our thought, but it was a really good event. As you know, one of our staff's collective push is to enhance our our community relations and stuff like that. So everything you see here was generated from the staff. A A lot of volunteers that constructed the float, volunteers that participated in the float. That top right shows, that top right photo shows our rendition of a jellyfish, because the theme was Christmas under the sea. And then the top left, if you see both Sarah Higgins, our director of mechanical operations, and of course Dallas Richards, actually on those floats. So anyway, good participation. We actually have received feedback from the city of Manassas that they would like us in their float for St. Patrick's Day in March. So slight modification, and we can do that. And then our big annual event this time of year was Santa Trains, and I just can't emphasize enough what a huge lift, but not in a negative way. This is a huge lift for us, and it takes all hands. And for the event specifically, we sold over 11,000 tickets. I would have to say there was probably more than 11,000 people that participated that day. But a huge effort by staff, and very well received by the community. I'm going to take a minute, 37 seconds. And show you this.
It's like a commercial for VRE for Christmas.
Absolutely. And I'm going to give it to you. I'm going to go back.
That's a good one.
Yeah, just back to this picture now, but just in full disclosure, the bottom right photo there, Mike McLaughlin graciously allowed us to use this for this pictorial, and that's a great photo of a part of his family that was out.
Just two of my six.
Yeah, just two. Not the Santa. Just
No, I wasn't saying that, right.
We'll also think there are a couple of people actually sitting around this table, and they know who they are, but I know there's youngsters probably watching this live stream and stuff, so I don't want to, suggest that. But anyway, and I appreciate Bob and his daughter being out there helping out, and of course, Miss Bagley out there as well. But anyway, great event, but there's a couple, in parallel with this event, one of our big emphasis is on the collection of Toys for Tots for the Marine Corps. And so we do that the day of the event, and the preceding week, we collect toys on our trains. This year, really happy to announce that we collected an estimated over 2,000 toys for the kids. Great event. And then I just kind of along that theme, I just want to give a huge shout out to our staff. You know, this entire year, like I said, we had so many different events, so many things. You know, we've adapted somewhat of an attitude internally, particularly with our, you know, in our current environment with our return, you know, trying to return our ridership and all that kind of stuff. We're looking at ourselves essentially as a new start operation. Like we just came out here and we're just kind of reinventing ourselves or starting ourselves from new. And it takes, I have to tell you, it takes an enormous effort. The key thing about these photos up here, these are not photos of people sitting behind their desk or any of that type of stuff. These are events. These are staff going out into the community in a lot of cases and sharing the good word, if you will, on VRE. And it just amazes me at times what the staff and how creative they are and just the effort that the entire staff puts into this. So I just wanted to take a moment, huge shout out to the VRE staff. That extends also, you know, our staff partners, if you will, of PRTC, NVTC, VPRA, and all the jurisdictional staff too. It's a huge family, if you will, making this happen. So just wanted to highlight that, and that's the end of my report, Mr. Chair.
Okay, great video, and just want to echo the thanks to the entire VRE team for the Santa train effort. I was at the Burke Center station with my family, and there were, I mean, it was packed. So many people out and families enjoying it, and as long as Santa delivers on the bike with pedal request that Theo made on the train, we'll be back next year. But thank you to everyone who made it happen. I know it's a big enterprise and went really well. Any questions or comments on Rich's report?
It's a quick comment. It's great job, Rich and the team. This also folds into what your vision is, your projections that you had as it relates to your performance evaluation. So I just wanted to highlight that because it just partners to what your vision was for that. So thank you.
Okay, anything else on the CEO's report? All right, we'll move into our, public comment. VRE accepts public comments both in person and electronically via the VRE website. Members of the public wishing to make comments have 3 minutes and should state their full name and the jurisdiction they live in. Written comments submitted before 8 a.m. this morning will be forwarded to the members of the board, read into the minutes, and attached to the official minutes. Do we have any members of the public here who would like to address the board? Okay, seeing none, Madam Clerk, do we have any electronically submitted comments?
We've not received any written comments.
Okay, moving on to our action items. Action item 9A, referral of the amended FY24 and recommended FY25 operating budgets to the commissions and the jurisdictions. Rich?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As Mark transitions up to the podium, I'll just set this up. We, of course, Mark will go over just a little bit of how we got here, but we tried to make this informational and concise, but the objective here is to have plenty of time to have any kind of further discussions before you make your recommendations. With that, Mark, you got a clicker up. Mark does have some slides. We did send that out to you yesterday for your preview, so we'll just take it away. And hopefully the Santa train video kind of softened you up a little bit. Take it away, Mark.
Rich, good morning, Mr. Chair and board members. Yes, I will talk a little bit just about the budget process, where we are and where we're going. Then we will talk about the substance of the budget, focusing mostly on the big policy questions. We'll dig a little bit into the details. And then, of course, if we want to dig even more into the details, either between me or Alex Buchanan, our budget manager. We will be able to hopefully answer any of the questions that you have. Again, just where we are in terms of the process, we presented the preliminary budget here in September. This is now the recommended budget. If the operations board does recommend the budget, it will go to the commissions for their due and approval at their January meetings. With that approval, then it will be distributed to the jurisdictions for incorporation into their 25 budgets. We also now, new thing with the new dedicated money that we're getting out of the MTF, we also have to formally present our budget to DRPT and to the Commonwealth Transportation Board. So we will be doing that as well. So the three big policy issues that I think are most important in the budget here are our proposed changes to our service, the proposed changes that we have to the passenger fares, and then the proposed increase to the jurisdictional contribution. So I'll touch on each of those as we go. I think we, as Rich, we are to take the mindset of being a new start. We are not trying to sort of recover from the pandemic. We are trying to position VRE in the new sort of pandemic world. So we are looking both at how can we improve our current sort of weekday commuter-oriented service, and how can we expand into new markets. So the FY25 budget does contemplate some changes to the existing service. In particular, we're trying to plug the hole that we have in the morning on the Manassas line. We certainly hear from a lot of people that if we had a train in that hole, that we would ride it. Those changes that we're looking at, in addition to some changes up in terms of storage and things like that, we actually think that those enhancements could be a little bit cost positive, cost improving. So have those in the budget. But then, of course, the other big change is the planned introduction of new Saturday VRE service, looking at 3 round-trip trains on each line, going northbound in the morning and coming southbound in the afternoon or the evening. We are still, of course, in discussion with the host railroads and with Keolis in terms of how to make that happen. If we're able to do that, that would be a total increase in our level of service of about 8%. If you're measuring that in terms of. I hope you did get a chance to look at the public participation report that was included with the budget. We did get a lot of positive response from the people that did respond about the proposed introduction of this Saturday service, and just how that is hopefully a first step towards the continuing transformation for VRE. You've seen this chart before in terms of what was previously our proposed changes to the fares. It is now our recommended changes to the fares. As we've discussed, we took this out to the public for comment. We did get a little bit of negative comment, but most people seem to understand sort of exactly why we're doing this, especially given not being raised fares during the pandemic years. Just to run through again what the 4 major changes are. One is to make permanent the current promotional flat fare that we have in zones 1 to 3. Number 2 is an overall increase in the fares of 5% while maintaining the existing discount structure that we have for the 10 trips and the monthlies. Number 3, to eliminate the significantly underutilized weekly pass, which we think will have very, very little impact in terms of most people, either depending on how much they ride, either moving to the 10 trip or monthly. And then allowing children ages 18 and under to ride for free. We currently allow children 10 and under to ride for free, and we have our youth discount program, which is sort of a counterpart to our existing elderly and disabled discount programs. Again, we have very few sort of youth travelers, kids who use VRE to ride to school on the weekdays. We think in general that this would make VRE travel by families, that is parents riding with their children, more attractive, not just on the proposed weekend service, but then also on the weekdays, maybe groups traveling, things like that. And again, the public feedback, as noted there at the bottom, very positive. Very positive overall. So, and then number three, the jurisdictional contribution, just giving you a little history there. 2021 being the last budget that was adopted prior to the pandemic. Thank you, Russ. Thank you. And then 2022 in particular, but then continuing into 23 and 24, offering relief to the jurisdictions by drawing down additional pandemic money. We had proposed in previous years trying to get back on the path of regular increases to the jurisdictional contribution. So we are back at that 18.3 billion number, and I do think we anticipate that continue to propose more regular increases in that going forward. If we had been increasing the jurisdictional contribution along with inflation, it would be at more like 22 million for this year. And if you sort of add up the relief that has been given over this time period, it's approximately $30 million of pandemic money that has been used to relieve the jurisdictional contribution. So those are sort of I think the three big policy issues. As we sort of dig into the details a little bit, the operating costs that we have do reflect that implementation of the new Saturday service and the sort of weekday cost improvement that we're looking at. We have our major contracts both with the host railroads and with Keolis. Those two things by themselves make up approximately half of the operating budget. We had seen major inflationary increases in those over the last couple of years. Those are coming back down to normal, along with just sort of general inflation in the economy coming back down to normal. A pretty normal projection for diesel, again, which is one of our major expense line items, with the gallonage again being increased a little bit there for the new Saturday service. Insurance, we are sort of at the whims of the market, and it always appears that there are needs for new expanded coverage, things like cyber insurance. We continue to work with groups like the Commuter Rail Coalition to try to find new ways to come into the market and try to bring these annual cost increases down. We will continue to report to you on that. One change from the preliminary budget that we had provided in September, that budget had recommended adding 3 employee positions. We have brought that back down to 2 after. Budget theme music. Thank you. Look into that. We believe that we can do some business process improvements, find some ways to achieve what we were hoping to achieve with the third position, not with the existing resources that we have. But we do still have the need for the expanded requirements in terms of the facilities that we have, in particular the loo, which was just, as you know, was just opened earlier this year, and also more needs on the IT side, again, with respect to cybersecurity in particular. Again, we'll be happy to dig into any of the departmental budget details or any of the assumptions if you would like to talk about that. I think the real takeaway here, as we've discussed, is nothing that is mission critical is being deferred here. We are continuing to deliver that safe and reliable service that the customers demand, while at the same time really trying to put additional resources where we can into marketing, into outreach, into ways to how do we attract those new riders that we need to attract. So this is the summary table of the capital program. And again, if we want to dig into any particular specific projects, we have the project pages there in the budget book. We'll be happy to talk about them. The capital program is not terribly different from what we had for last year's budget, approximately $1.3 billion in terms of the total cost of projects that either are currently underway or are anticipated to begin in the next 6 years. About 2/3 of that with having the funding currently identified and about 1/3 of that not yet. Again, the about half of that unfunded amount is there in that rolling stock line. We are again continuing as part of TRV and hopefully the future expansion of VRE, looking at adding expansion locomotives and expansion rail cars, but we have not yet identified where the money for that will come from. Maintenance and storage facilities being the other one there that has a relatively large unfunded amount. That is things like the New York Avenue midday storage project, the longer term phase for the Crossroads Yard project, things like that. Those are projects that we are actively working on trying to identify where are we going to get the money for those. And so this is sort of looking at the costs side of things, and then a little bit just about where the money is coming from. So again, there's that sort of roughly 2/3, 1/3, blue being the funded amounts and the yellow currently being the unfunded amounts. The federal slice, which is about a quarter of the pie, that is primarily the 5337 state of good repair money that we get, along with the 5307 urbanized area money. But it's also things like CMAQ grants and things like that. The state money down there, a little under 20%. That is things like smart scale. That is things like matching to existing federal grants, things like that. Regional local being the NBTA and things like commuter choice, and then internal VRE either being things like our capital reserve or using our own VROC money, which we have, for example, programmed on like the Crystal City project. So that's, and again, I would just say, we've talked about this a lot over the last couple of years. There was a period sort of when I was joining where we were sort of doing a lot of planning, doing a lot of grant applications, really sort of adding a lot of new projects into the CIP. We have transitioned. We are really now in a sort of project delivery mode within the CIP. So the listing of the projects within the program really hasn't changed a whole lot versus last year. These things do tend to go in sort of waves. So give it a couple of years and we will probably be, back again in the sort of application planning mode once we get a lot of these current projects done, which actually reminds me, there are 3 projects which are still currently being reflected in the program: the Lou, Quantico, and the Fredericksburg Station Rehab. All of those big high-profile projects. All of those are anticipated to be completed by the end of this year, 2024, this fiscal year. But they are still being reflected in the plan because they're not done. But when we come back here next year, all 3 of those will have dropped out. So just to let you know how the plan is kind of evolving over time. I'm happy to talk. Of course, sure.
A couple questions.
Sure.
Chair, I was just curious, does VRE have any concerns or reactions to the smart scale scoring changes that were just made in the region?
I'm not sure I'm the right person to ask about that. I've heard some different views on that. My understanding was that some of we do tend to go in for sort of larger, higher capacity projects, and that VRE might still do relatively well on some of those things. But I'm a little over my skis on this.
I'm looking at Joe back there. I mean, Joe's a little bit more closer to the details and stuff, and what we've been briefed on and stuff. I don't think concern is the word. And if you're specifically asking about how do we fill that unfunded gap, if you will, obviously in the past we've used Smart Scale and other state-supported money for that. My perspective, unless things change or anything, obviously with the bill out there, we have a lot more, and to some degree, maybe some better opportunities through the bill to fund some of those gaps. But I'll let Joe either throw something at me or say something.
No, I think you both characterized it very well. As Mark said, because we
tend to put large projects in. I don't think the changes that they made are going to affect the type of projects that we would be asking for funding for.
I appreciate that. I was just, I was curious if the unfunded portion might expand if the state portion was back in some way, but it doesn't sound like that's.
Okay, any other questions up to this point, or you can also hold your questions to the end, that's all right as well.
I just have one more and then.
Okay.
No, please.
Go ahead, Mr.
One more quick clarification. State 19%, this is CIPs. That doesn't include access fees.
Absolutely, that's correct.
I just want to be clear.
Very true. Yep. Yeah.
25 million.
Yes, our total access fees are, Alex can correct me if I'm wrong, on the order of $25 million. And then VPRA is reimbursing 84%. So it's, $21-22 million from VPRA for that.
Okay, all right, let's keep going.
So this is the last one, obviously very important in terms of the projected uses of our pandemic relief money. And again, this is, it's not that we start at the top and decide how much pandemic relief money to use in a year. Really, this is the result at the end of everything that we're doing. How is ridership returning? What are our sort of policy decisions about the contributions from the jurisdictions, about the level of the passenger fares, things like that. And again, just to remind everyone, VRE has received 3 different tranches of the pandemic relief money. We have used all of the CARES money. We are in the process there in the middle of utilizing the rescue plan money. And then when that is done, we will have the CRISA money. The amended FY24 budget is a part of your package for the approval today. We are not changing the overall level of expense in the operating budget for 24. We are, drawing down on contingency for expenses maybe that we didn't anticipate. But again, on the expense side, those are relatively sort of minor changes. The big change is on the revenue side, excuse me. So passenger revenues have not recovered at the rate that we had anticipated back when we adopted the 24 budget. So we are projected, I should say, to draw approximately $8 million more of the rescue plan money in 24 than we had included in the original budget. So that dark blue box there in the middle is a little bit bigger than it was before, but we do still have a considerable runway before the pandemic money is fully utilized. So with that, be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, questions for Mark, and I will start on just following up on the unfunded capital portion of the pie chart. Can you just talk through the potential funding sources there? And we touched on smart scale. So CROC money is spoken for, right? Correct me if I'm wrong.
That's correct.
Somewhere in one of the other pieces of the pie chart there. So you have smart scale, commuter choice, federal funding sources. What am I missing in terms of the potential ways to fill that unfunded 30%?
Yeah, I'll actually back up to this one. I think the sources that you've named there for the maintenance and storage facilities and the passenger station facilities, I think you've named exactly the kinds of resources that we would be going after. I think in terms of the unfunded amount for the rolling stock, the locomotives and the rail cars, that's a little bit bigger of a bite to chew on. I think we need to do some analysis internally and talk to our partners at the FTA and at the state about how we might approach that one.
And that rolling stock obviously is necessary to meet the service expansion goals that we.
Correct. And, I don't think we have to have the answer to that question, in the next month or two. But eventually, when we are going to want to enter into a contract, for the delivery of rail cars and locomotives, we will need to have that lined up.
And then second question on the operating budget, it's an 8.7% increase over last year. Am I I remember that correctly from this.
Mhm.
Is the primary driver of that Saturday service implementation and the net cost of Saturday service, or is the primary driver of that 8.7% operating increase just the normal increases in contracts, CPI, fuel, insurance, et cetera? What's the?
Am I allowed to answer both?
Yeah.
Yes, the contractual increases to Keolis and to the host railroads, those alone would drive, multiple millions of that increase. But then, then the net cost for this service, once you take into account the reimbursement of the access fees and then the actual passenger revenue that would be generated, you're still talking on the order of $2 million net.
Okay, so I think that's
Add that as well.
I don't want anyone to take away that the operating, we're increasing the operating budget by 8.7% to do Saturday service. Saturday service is actually a relatively small portion of that cost because of the savings efficiencies that have been identified to be able to do it. Okay. All right, let's open it up. Other questions for
I thought from the get-go that we said that Saturday service is the brilliance of this proposal is that it fits in the current budget and in the current level of service that we produce. One question is we have about the 1,000 bull riding that just to clarify how we justify our projection a little bit. And then on the capital side, on the rolling stock replacement, because this is a big chunk, it's really critical. I think, Rich, you said at some point that you framed the timeline for that about when it to be critical to be able to, update the rolling stock and therefore the capital expense being, critically, critical to fund. Just remind me how close we are.
Yeah, so let me start with that. Be thinking about the first part of that question. I think I have an answer as far as the projection for Saturday ridership. But yeah, as far as the rolling stock goes, what we're dealing with is two things at the same time. One is we're looking at what additional rolling stock would we need for additional service, right? So we have that right in front of us. In fact, as part of this last piece of our updated long-range plan, we're narrowing in on that to actually identify exactly how much of that equipment that we need for that additional service. Actually, we also have internally, we want to maximize the utilization of our existing equipment. So I don't really want to just go out there and purchase new equipment for the sake of the additional service, right? So that's one piece. The other piece is simply, we have rail cars that have a useful life of 30 years, and we have locomotives that have a useful life benchmark of 20 years. So that is going to start, I'll go to the locomotive side, the locomotive useful life benchmark, and we're looking at 2030-ish, right? 2030-ish, 2031. And so in order to go do that procurement, we need to have that funded. That's about a 4-year cycle now. We hope that changes and narrows down. But on locomotives, we're looking at a 4-year cycle. So if we go and execute a contract, we essentially need to have that funded when we go procure that. Passenger cars, a little different. It's about the same cycle time, but that's the part where it's really in that beginning of the 2030 decade, mid 2030, where we need to look at the entire replacement, start that cycle again, entire fleet replacement. Again, looking at it, analyzing it. So again, doing two things at once, and that's why that number is the way it is right now. It's projected what we know right now.
My question is, first of all, understanding the cycles and understanding how close we are, to critical decision moments. And secondly, is how much of this pressure point here will have to to occupy this board with thinking about what kind of equipment, what's the future of equipment here. I know that most commuter rail agencies at some point have faced the question, what's the ideal vehicle to, what's the most, cost effective, capital and operation wise, et cetera. And since everything else is not very rosy, I mean, we have a huge unfunded, kind of part of CIP here. This is good for me to understand how close we are.
Yeah, and I'll just, to your point about the types of vehicles, and again, I go back to, it's the leading topic on that is the type of service that we're projecting the next few years. So it's almost, or the next decade or 2 decades, as part of our long range plan and stuff. So want to kind of let that help inform what those replacement vehicles would look like. Just for your benefit, similar discussion a couple of years ago when we ordered, we have 21 rail cars on order right now. And the emphasis at that time was, we wanted to make those rail cars, more, not just commuter friendly, but expand, the utility of those cars. So they're level boarding cars. We have, there's more capacity for bicycles on board those cars. We have changing stations in the restrooms and stuff like that, right? So we've already sort of started that evolution, and now we'll continue that. So,
And then, Mr. Karen Thomas's first question about the weekend ridership. Yes, so we've been working. I mean, as you probably know, the weekend service is an important part of the 2030 and 2050 planning effort that Christine and Nick are doing. So we have been coordinating with them and the modeling that they're doing, looking at the weekends. Can I say that I know that it's 1,000 versus 1,100? No. I mean, I think we'll discover as we roll out the service exactly what the response from the market is. But again, given the modeling that they've been doing as a part of the plan, we felt that was a reasonable guess at this point in the process. Shouldn't say guess, a reasonable estimate.
I appreciate that. So I really want to, one other conveyable part of this conversation on this budget is you really are focused, laser focused on ridership. It's not a small feat to get to 8,500 people on weekdays and 1,000 on weekdays. So that would be, for me, the number one priority right now.
Kim says.
So I don't know if this is the time or not to talk about locality subsidy on this.
Sure.
But so, in looking at the numbers from 2019, we were at I'm talking specifically for Spotsylvania, we were at 1079. 22 was 501. This is the ridership from the master agreement, I believe. And then this year it was 541. So it's a net gain of 40 riders. And the ask this year is to go back to pre-pandemic levels, right? So that's an additional $405,000 for Spotsylvania. That's a tough pill to swallow for me, when we're still at half of what we were, and the net gain was 40 riders. I think we all are in the same boat as far as from localities, and maybe you guys aren't up in the northern part, good for you, but down where I am, we have tremendous asks and tremendous transportation needs. And so every penny has to be, it has to have a return on investment. So I'm really concerned that we're asking to go back to where we were when we haven't recovered where, at the rate that we need to. Now, I love that we're trying to be flexible and trying to go pivot, because I think that's necessary at this juncture. But I think it's a little too much to ask for us to go back to where we were when it has not performed in the way that we anticipated. I'm pro this, right? I want to get the ridership up. I want to do that. I think the Saturday service is a way to do that, although I disagree that I don't think giving free rides to children, to an 18-year-old is the way to do it. I think we have to try and find revenue. And if people are riding, they need to pay. And I think if you want to get families, most 18-year-olds, I know my 20-year-old at 18 wasn't hanging with us. So, I think if we go a little lower and cap that off at a certain age, that would be fine. But I don't think giving out more for nothing is necessarily going to yield you a regular rider. I don't know if we have the numbers from the September thing we did. Those were one-offs. They were very welcome for groups that wanted to take a trip, but they're not going to do it again if it's not free. So it was a goodwill effort, but that's where I'm at. I don't know how many other people feel that way. I may be in the minority about this, but I just want to tell you my concern. The other thing is we had our legislators come to our meeting last Tuesday, and one of the things they were talking about that's a transportation issue is this whole initiative to go electric, and that the cars, I can't remember the percentage, that need to be purchased electric from, and that is going to severely impact the gas tax. And they're concerned about how that's gonna play across the board. That's something that we need to really be thinking about right now, because once that gas tax goes down, we're all gonna be in a pickle. So anyway, thank you.
Yeah, and thank you for sharing that. Couple of thoughts, on the subsidy issue, and maybe we're having the same kind of dialogue that we had last year, which is okay. I think for all of us in our jurisdictions' budgets, there are very few, if any, line items that haven't increased, at least with inflation, over the last 4 to 5 years, back to 2019. And the overall jurisdictional subsidy for VRE is trailing inflation. And in fact, we're $3.7 million behind where we would be as a total jurisdictional subsidy had we not cut it during the pandemic. So then obviously within that, based on ridership and the master agreement that we've all agreed to as our jurisdictions, you're going to have annual fluctuations based on survey and ridership. So what I say to my colleagues is we're still getting a really good deal with VRE, because our police department, we're paying a lot more. Our fire department, we're paying a lot more. For Metro, we're getting ready to pay a lot more. VRE is the only one that has increased with inflation over the last 5 years. So it's a good deal. I think also it's important for all of us, please, if you haven't already, take a look at the 6-year forecast that was shared, and you can see our path and the runway that we have for the next several years. But that runway, the end of that runway, gets closer and closer each day. And what I think we all want to avoid is being in a situation where we have to go to the jurisdictions and ask for a significant amount of money. Otherwise, we'll have to close stations and stop trains from running. And every dollar that we don't collect in jurisdictional subsidies or continued support from the Commonwealth this year or next year puts us closer and closer to that kind of God crisis moment that some other transit systems are in. So from my perspective, it's prudent to try to prevent that by regularly, in a modest way, the jurisdictional subsidies. Respect different opinions on that. In terms of the under 18, or can you just talk us through the existing status quo for youth fairs on VRE and the amount of revenue we collect?
Sure. So if you are a youth or a student, age 11 to 18, we ask you to come to the VRE office. You show us your ID and we give you a youth discount pass. You can then use that primarily in the mobile app to buy the discounted ticket. And we don't have as I said, we don't have a ton of people using that now on the weekdays. We have kids who are riding to school downtown and back. So, coming into the office to get that, youth discount pass, it makes sense for them to do that. We're talking on the order of a couple $1,000s a month in passenger revenue from that. Very, very modest.
And I think that the question is, I think we all agree that there should be some discount or free fare for kids. I mean, if you think of that family coming from Spotsylvania or Stafford to go to Union Station and see the cherry blossoms, if you have a family of 4, the economics of driving versus VRE just don't work. So I think from my perspective, simplifying it for those families makes sense. I don't have a hard view whether 18 is the right age. I do think there are probably some families with 17-year-olds that might take a day trip together or go to see a show together. But let me open it up to others for other folks.
That was the point I was gonna make, is simply that if a parking spot is $35 for a day in DC, which I paid, the math on that, I think what we're trying to do is incentivize, if we can make, say, $20 off a $10 each ticket or $11 each ticket for the adults, they're paying $22, which is cheaper than $35. Bathroom on the train, those sorts of things. But if we charge for everybody for our revenue purposes, we might lose the $22 because now they're paying, let's say, $40, or $38. And they start to say, well, I can park for 30 maybe, they find a cheaper lot. So I understand the idea of we're chasing revenue and why would we, concede revenue. But I think my concern is we lose the adults if we don't make it a price attractive relative to the parking costs. And so that's why when this proposal was floated, that was the math I was, that concept. I hear you on like the 18-year-old, and if the conversation was, I don't know, 16 or something, but it's also who's going to check those ID, who's going to parse, sort of how old you are and that sort of thing. So I assumed that was part of the rationale too, just to ease that point of friction, to start parsing out, what age people are when they're getting on. So I just, I understand, the concern to cede any revenue anywhere, but I was focused on the adult revenue potential versus zero, which exists presently on Saturdays.
Scary.
I feel like I would be helping us miss out on something if I didn't contribute to this specific conversation, being that I live in Stafford. I have a ton of children from 21 down to 9. We would absolutely use the VRE. I haven't taken my children on yet because it is so expensive and we have a larger family. I know a lot of homeschool families that actually used the service when it was free for that time that would definitely use it regularly. They would become regular riders if they're able to go and take their children and take these trips. I think it's an opportunity to generate more revenue than we might expect even. Also because of the number of larger families that live down in Stafford and Spotsylvania County. So I just wanted to speak to that. And my kids, we all have different family dynamics. My kids, I can't get rid of them. One came home from boot camp yesterday and he's right in the gym with us again. So, I appreciate that. And I know there are, many of us who still hang out with our older kids and, some of them go off and they run as soon as they can and do their own thing and everyone's different, but we definitely have some opportunities there. So,
okay, I'll concede that I'm in the minority on that issue. So that's fine. But as far as the use of the CRISA funds, and we have 69 million going forward, and I understand the runway. I get that. You want a runway so that we can hopefully get riders up, and we're pivoting, and that's what we should be doing. Because what we've done isn't coming back. I would like for us to consider for this year dipping a little bit more, or for FY25, dipping more into that 69 million to help reduce the locality subsidy. Because, you know, $405,000, although it may seem immaterial to some localities, to us, it's huge. And that is basically $405,000 for a net gain of 40 riders. That's how I'm looking at it, and that's how others are going to look at it. The vast majority of Spotsylvanians don't ride the VRE up, right, because they're working locally or they're working remotely. But yet they're paying a gas tax to support it. So, you know, I just putting that out there for the board's consumption that, you know, I think we should borrow a little bit more from that CRISA funds to help us. You know, the localities need another runway to get back to pre-pandemic levels too. So that's my thought. Thank you.
Mr. Stork.
I'm not supportive of that. I think I'm deeply concerned about the next many years, how we're going to hit that, how we're going to meet what we know we have to meet. And I think the ridership is going to take longer, if anything. And I think we need the runway. I don't want to be in a situation like Omada's in, which is they spent all their money and now they're going out and just praying that jurisdictions will step up and states will step up and fund the decisions that they've made in the past. And I think we need the time. I'm more concerned about how do we address continued, I guess, insufficient rider increase, and what are our options for, if anything, having that money give us even a longer runway, because it may take longer. So I think we're going to have, from my perspective, I think we need to do even from a board intensive review, not at this moment, but over the next year, and take a deep look at what options do we have if we don't start meeting projections that we're making with this budget. What should our next options be in terms of trying to extend the subsidies while still extending the capital development that we have to have, I believe, for 2030 and 2040, because that's my major focus. Is I'm convinced that we're going to continue to grow, but the growth is going to be slower. So how do we afford what we're doing in the meantime?
Ms. Famke and then Ms. Simpson.
Yeah, so I think that a lot of us sitting in this room have a lot of various thoughts going through our brains right now as it relates to WMATA, those in Northern Virginia, those in the southern part of, you know, bringing up what Lori brought up, and really all the comments that have been brought up here. You know, it's in Stafford County, and I know I've mentioned this before, you know, our challenge is the disabled veterans exemption tax is over 7% of our budget right now. And the fact that we don't receive any COCA money. And 7% is about $17 million. And so that's a big hole in our budget. I mean, those are real dollars, and it's only going to continue to increase as our wonderful veterans move into our community. And we want to support them. There's nobody that doesn't want to, but you have to replace that revenue somewhere along the line. And we have legislative issues going to the state to hopefully help us address the COCA issue, since we only receive 25%, and we're in Northern Virginia these days, whether we like it or not. So I think everybody's really raised some great points as it relates to the diesel fuels. You know, what should the fair revenue really be for those that are, 12 to 18? I don't think that's significant of a piece. The jurisdictional subsidies, the fact that we haven't kept up with inflation. So I think that, we've got all these unfunded mandates. We do have CRISA, and, I remember after the pandemic, it's like, wow, this runway seems really long, and the runway, as we all know, is just getting shorter and shorter, right? And so I think it's a balancing act for all of us here. I've thought, as you guys know, for the last couple of years of having the jurisdictional subsidies, and we kind of had I remember when Mr. Alcorn was here last year, we kind of negotiated and came to an amenable place for all of us. I'm willing to move forward with the jurisdictional subsidy where it is right now, primarily due to inflation. But I would like to say that depending on where our budget goes, and I know all of you in Northern Virginia are very concerned about the whole WMATA. Maybe you have the capitals coming into Virginia and that might help things. Who really knows? That's a big wild card, but we might need some flexibility, and we don't know. We raised taxes 9 cents last year in Stafford County. We can't do that to people again, so it's a balancing act. I do have a question regarding the 2 additional employees in IT and in facilities. Could somebody just give me a little high level on that, if you would, on why we need those additional employees?
Sure. I think the IT one, and I can turn to Robert if you want to give a little more detail, but it's really about just ever expanding needs as far as cybersecurity. It's just, I'm sure you all read the papers, the ransomware, the phishing attacks, all the things that we have to do to keep our networks and our systems going.
Feeling that.
Yes.
Hear from you.
Yep. And then on the facilities, as we have expanded, we've added the Lou, we'll be adding the Manassas Park parking garage. We've expanded stations. We just need additional resources in order to make sure that all of those facilities are in good working order. Rich, I don't know if you want to.
That's anything else there.
Okay.
So I do have one last question, really kind of for all of us here. I know that we're all very excited about the Saturday service. I think that's really very exciting. Have we really looked at, and if we haven't for this fiscal year, can we do it this coming year? Have we really scratched every opportunity that we have to increase our ridership during the week? Have we done everything humanly?
No.
Did somebody say something?
No, it was my phone.
Oh, sorry. Okay. That's my big, because I look at and listen to the PRTC meetings as it relates to Omni Ride and then the WMATA. So that's what's in the back of my brain. Have we done everything possible?
But, Mr. Chair, I'm never gonna ever say we've done everything possible.
Sure,
There's
sure.
always, we are a continuous improvement organization. We're not. What I am gonna say though, I'll just say, we have constraints and limitations right now, okay? And those constraints and limitations are, that actually hold us back in some regards to, the schedules of our trains, the time of day we can operate, so on and so forth. Every day that goes on from here on out, that constraint lessens, okay? Because of these infrastructure improvements that are being made, just going back to transforming rail in Virginia, in the 2026 timeframe, after the Franconia Springfield bypass and some other 4-track project, those types of things, that opens, contractually, that opens things up for us, right? And so, time and the execution of those planned infrastructure improvements will help us out. Yeah, it's there are some opportunities for us that we will be able to, from a market perspective, that we will be able to serve at that point. I just can't do it today, right? And just to go back, that was the purpose of floating or dipping our toe, if you remember, in Saturday service. Contractually, that's in that 2026 timeframe. That's in that, again, speaking in terms of transforming rail in Virginia, that's after phase one planned infrastructure improvement. So what you all asked us to do is, hey, could we move a little bit of that? Could we go dip our toe in the water? And that's what we've done. So I'm just going to say I think the biggest, the biggest thing that's faced us in this time is just simply the capacity constraints, the infrastructure constraints, the idea that we just don't have an opportunity to go out there and start a 10 a.m. train for those people that are coming out of Stafford County that, just need to go to a midday meeting or something like that and get them back on the midday or the 3 o'clock trains and stuff like that. So we are limited. So what we've been doing, and I rest assured, there has been an enormous amount of effort, and we're going to even double that going forward. It's just essentially maximizing everything that we have within those constraints right now. So, and that also includes our marketing efforts, our outreach efforts, and all that type of stuff. All of that plays in. So, again, I'll just say that that if not for transforming rail in Virginia, if we were just starting to talk about that right now, hey, we need to open up this capacity and stuff like that. Think about that. That'd be like mid 2030s that we would be, and that would be problematic for us. Fortunately, we're only talking, we're talking an FY 2025 budget here, and potentially some ability to enhance our service in the right timeframes, the right markets and stuff as soon as 2026, 2027. So.
Thank you, Rich. I appreciate that comment.
Okay, Ms. Mincing and then Mr. McLaughlin.
I just wanted to say I can understand what Ms. Hayes is saying, coming from a smaller jurisdiction. However, when I go back to my constituents, I tell them that we have to look past just the ridership increase. We have to look at why people are moving to Manassas Park. And we don't have a metro, but we have a VRE, and that's why people are coming. And that's why we're getting businesses near our new downtown. So I do appreciate the value add, and that's why I can support the increased contribution, because VRE is bringing so much more than just a way into DC. It's options, and it's increasing our home values. I think that coupled with the increase in fares kind of levels it out. And I think that's good for sustainability. And I look forward to Saturday service. I think it's just going to add more value to our community. So it makes it a little easier to swallow looking at it that way.
So McLaughlin?
I just want to be Saturday service, declared at CSX. We still need CSX information.
We pay for that. But we would be paying for that.
Right, but they still have.
Yeah, and I think that's reflected in the budget documents that it's so pursuant to those ongoing negotiations.
Just want to be clear, they still need the information to move forward. Don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves. And I have another item that's nothing to do with this conversation, going back to the capital conversation. I know the announcement of the federal $7.9 million grant was probably after you wrote your budget, but that does include, I think, roughly $30 million for bond, which should help a little bit. Just want to point that out.
It's a great point. Thank you.
I think just the other point that I should have made with respect to the jurisdictional subsidy, an aspect of it that weighs on me is our fidelity to our partners. And we're fortunate right now in VRE's history to have really great partners, which hasn't always been the case, I don't think. And, I spend some amount of my time being critical of Governor Youngkin, but I absolutely can't do that on VRE because he and his administration have been a really amazing partner with respect to VRE. And I think for us not to at least return to the pre-pandemic jurisdictional contribution, for me, wouldn't feel faithful to our partners at the Commonwealth and our partners at our parent commissions too. I mean, I just, at NVTC last week, asked the commission to approve our commuter choice application, significant amount of money for our capital program. And that's competing against all the other projects that NVTC jurisdictions want to have funded. And we supported it. I think for us, I think quite frankly, even just being at the pre-pandemic level, some could criticize it because everyone else is paying more for their transit systems, their projects. So for me to not return to it, I think it would be probably not well received by some of our partners and would not feel faithful from my perspective. Any other questions or thoughts, Mr. Stork? Did you have?
Yeah, just on Mr. Botham's point, are we at risk at all with CSX not approving Saturday? I just want to make sure I understand the there.
And I'm just gonna lump all that together. CSX, Norfolk Southern,
Okay.
all of them, right? So we had conversations with all of our host railroads to a point. And to different points with all of those host railroads. And again, nobody, they generally support VRE, in any of our endeavors, if you will, particularly this particular, enhancement to our service. The piece I want to mention is that there's also some modifications to the weekday service, and more from an efficiency standpoint. But I'm just going to summarize. The host railroads are like, okay, that's fine, but we need to get to this point. They want us to get to this point, via the recommended budget or if it's going to become real, then they can, because there's efforts that our host railroads have to go through as far as modeling and stuff like that. But yeah, that's essentially where we're at.
Could have yes, but when you tell us you've got the funding,
You got the funding.
do the work,
Exactly.
we'll verify that it's 100%.
If that's something that we can do. So, and that lumps in, I think, generally speaking, all three of our host railroads.
Mr. Chair, I just feel like I have to put a caveat on this, just so that Rich, and staff knows, this is nothing to do, my desire to not fund to the level that you're asking, pre-pandemic levels, is not, I have to look at Spotsylvania, and I have to try and be very, very fiscally responsible with our money there. Because, this year we had every department come before us, and give us their Christmas list, and it is a long list. And as I said, the vast majority of Spotsylvanians do not ride VRE. They're working locally or they're remote. But I just want to say that I want VRE to be successful, but I just can't support the going full board on the subsidy.
Any other discussion, Mr. Bailey?
Thank you very much. I just wanted to say, and this is a soft response, but sometimes a soft response could be a bigger response. In respect of what Rich is saying about the rules and regulations that you have to adhere to, sometimes we overlook. I want to encourage us, because sometimes we overlook what is obvious, we overlook it. And so there are opportunities that are non-traditional that we really need to look at. And I say that in reference to what Sarah was mentioning about smart scale. And I know we're big picture, I get that. But that's an example of a potential opportunity that we can engage as it relates to the budget or other opportunities. Going back to what Mr. Chairman was saying about the governor being an advocate of VRE, he is absolutely an advocate. And so he's creating different programs that we might be able to take advantage of that maybe we're not thinking out of the box to look at. So I'm just offering that. I think that also we need to look at the fact that people are not traditionally riding the way that they were because the workforce is changing and we keep talking about it. But are we really embracing that thought when it comes to the budgeting piece? I think that's very key. So I'm putting it out there, not as a negative, but just maybe an opportunity for us to think differently about how we've traditionally done things.
All right, why don't we close the discussion and I'll entertain a motion to approve action item A, referral of the.
That's true.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor? Any opposed? Stays opposed. Any abstentions? Okay, the motion carries.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
just on a related issue, I thought to bring up now. I don't know if I'm not sure if this is the best way to do it, but one of the things I was interested in and chairing the finance committee was to have the finance committee take a little bit deeper look at the 6-year budget. And I don't know if this is something that we need something from the board or this is just the purview of the chair and we can take that. So I'm asking that to make sure that I don't overstep.
It certainly seems like we could plan for the finance committee to do that in January and
Very prudent.
maybe have a volunteer to chair the finance committee again. But yeah, thank you. I think that makes perfect sense. So Mark, is that something that can be done early in the year?
I would prefer February, just gives a little more time to plan for it, if that's okay.
Yes.
Of course.
We'll have the finance committee and obviously like all of our committee meetings, open it up to any board member that would like to participate. Okay. All right, great. The next action item is approval of our 2024 board officers. Ms. Mensing and I are the nominating committee, and this is the slate that we're putting forward for the board's consideration. Ms. Baumke as chair, Ms. Bagley as vice chair, and it's noted here, okay, it does note the bylaws are clear that the vice chair and the chair and vice chair have to be TC and one from PRTC. And then we have to have 2 of each commission as the chair, vice chair, secretary, or treasurer. So we have Ms. Bagley, Mr. Smith, Mr. Stork, and the at-large position that's been in the bylaws for many years. And we outlined the potential use of in the charge to the nominating committee resolution that we passed would be Ms. Bailey, with myself as the immediate past chair. There wasn't anybody who expressed interest who's not on this list. So appreciate all of those who are willing to serve. And unless there's any discussion on that, I will go ahead and make a motion to approve this slate of 2024 VRE officers.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Congratulations to all of you and forward to your starting in January. Next item is action item 9C. Rich?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Seeking authorization to issue an MEC 7 task order for engineering oversight for new passenger rail cars, and this would be phase 3 for the amount stated in the resolution, plus a contingency for a total amount not to exceed $1,498,869. And just in summary, again, phase 3. The FTA, FRA, and other regulatory funding partners require that VRE perform an engineering oversight for design reviews, first article inspections, in-plant inspections, and other on-site inspections of all new passenger rail cars. So this fulfills that. And just to remind members, a couple of years ago, we elected to do more of an annual task order through our MEC contract. Do the task orders on an annual basis just so we could actually to have more clarity on the scope moving forward 12 months ahead instead of doing like a 5-year contract and effectively having, potentially some inflated costs and a lot of contingency and stuff in there. So that this methodology has actually served us quite well. So that's my summary, Mr. Chair.
Okay, any questions on 9C? All right, is there a motion?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor? Any opposed? Any abstention? The motion carries. Action item 9D, Rich.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Seeking authorization to execute a contract for locomotive layover battery charging systems. Seeking authorization to execute a contract with Dina Consulting and Design LLC of Caldwell, Idaho for locomotive layover battery charging systems, again in the amount stated in the resolution, plus a contingency for a total amount not to exceed $353,905. As the title implies, this is a battery charging system for our locomotives. Just one caveat with this solicitation, we did have two respondents to this solicitation. Only one was responsive or basically had a qualified bid for us. So, and this particular entity has provided the same charging system that we're requiring to other commuter rail operations, including MARC trains just north of us and Go Transit in Toronto. So that's my summary, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Any questions? All right, is there a motion to approve?
Moved.
Moved, seconded. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor? Any opposed? Any abstentions? The motion carries. Action item 9F, Rich. 9E, I'm sorry. Okay. 9E.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Seeking authorization to extend a license agreement for lease of tower space for our VHF radio communication systems. This is an agreement we currently have with American Towers and for an amount stated in the resolution for a 5-year period. Just simply, as you can imagine, we have VHF radio communications on board our trains. And in order to communicate with our headquarters, we have strategically located radio antennas on towers throughout our service area. So this is just extending the existing lease for a 5-year period. That's my summary, Mr. Chair.
Okay, any questions on 9E?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor? Any opposed? Any abstentions? The motion carries. Information items, we have a spending authority report in the board's packet. No questions on the spending authority report. We will go to 10B.
10B, thank you, Mr. Chair. This is, we just have a short presentation for you. This is an update on our Crystal City Station project. Dallas Richards, our chief engineer, as he works his way up to the podium, is prepared. As you know, we've come to you in the past trying to give you, trying to maintain updates on all projects, and of course with the Crystal City project. Because at VRE, we would not do anything simple. It has to be complex, and the Crystal City project is one of those, but that's what makes it fun, and at the end of the day, it'll make a great product. So, Mr. Richards, take it away. You got a good work clicker up there.
Mr. Chair, board, colleagues, guests, thank you for your time this morning. A brief refresher, if you will, for those who may not have been on the board at the time we first presented this, and just a sort of refresher memory for this. But the proposed project will relocate our existing station about 12 yards railroad south of where it sits today. This location was part of a explosive study and was performed in this item some time ago. We've completed the required NEPA approvals from the FTA in this effort, and then just the north entrance and station platform have completed 60% design. we've kind of we had a stopping point there, if you will, and then working with our, Paul's point will say, working with our stakeholders, other agencies I'm going to show you in a second here, and 6% design of stair tower is underway now. Some of the pieces I'm about to show you. You can see the schedule. I won't go into the minutia of that, but we're well underway now and moving forward, coordinating very closely with our state partners especially. This slide and the next one with it are slightly different, and that's intentional so that you can see those differences. The last time it was presented in this one, they're very minor, but I do want to point them out. But the important piece of this slide was previously as the hub and spoke. VRE's element here is the sort of the hub of it is the stair tower in the center, stair and elevator tower, if you will, in the center of and I don't know if I can point, but I think you can see it pretty well. In the center of, that works right here. There's your hub. There's everything in the center of that stair and elevator tower. And you can see the complexities, the external stakeholders in that, right? So we would be the portion of the platform in that, Girl Scout cookie mint green color to the right. And that's, if you will, phase one. It's dubbed as phase one. I want to talk a little bit about the phasing. Amtrak, our partners to the south with their proposed high-level platform. JBG Smith, our partners to Railroad West, the property owner in the two buildings there, technically the third building between where the bridge would go. And then CC to DCA, the structure over to the airport that's being advanced by the county.
Quick question, maybe clarification for me now that I used to live in the area and still just want to get my bearings. What cross street? The yellow with purple.
24th, I think, is probably the closest, right where the new metro stop is. Yeah, you'll see in the area there in a second. I think that's about the closest. And then, of course, the other two Railroad North are shown as CSX and Virginia Passenger Rail Authority and their proposed Alexandria fourth track project. And these projects very much all have to dovetail. We are very much the first ones there, if you will, with this proposed work, but are basically a secondary to the CSX construction of the fourth track on behalf of the state. Those tracks have to be shifted to the east before we can actually construct the station in the west, on the west side of what will be the future four-track corridor. This should help you a little bit, Mike, showing you the buildings there. Yeah, that may help a little bit. And I won't go back and forth, but you can, yes.
Metro in relation to that.
Sorry?
Where's the Metro West?
To the Railroad West. If you follow that yellow line projecting out to Crystal Drive and then go north a block or so, you'll see that's where the intersection is with the actually new location to the metro entrance. It's very close. Very close. Tacos, you want?
The metro is across the block.
Across the street, project west and go north a block.
West.
Railroad. Yeah, I'm saying Railroad West. You're saying
That's what, yeah.
yeah. There's a there he is.
It's only go north and south on the railroad. There is no east and west.
Yeah, we go north. Railroad North.
We gotta translate.
Yeah, sorry, I'll translate it. Railroad North, Railroad West, if you will. Yes, it's just up the block. It's very close, and that's kind of the point. Between the two, and I won't toggle back and forth, but basically what's happened is we've redrawn the line. The goal line has moved a little bit, and that is deliberate in the sense that we want to build everything we can in the right of way while we're there and have opportunity to do so without doing it between two active tracks. That was true before. It's more true now than ever. Previously, we had truncated that green portion at the south end of what would be our platform and left out the stair and elevator tower to be built later at a subsequent later. And I'm going to make the point that the two phases I described may be very short order. In fact, they could be concurrent at some point, right? But right now, we don't have all of the detailed information from that external partner, JBG Smith, in order to build that piece of the CC to DCA for that matter. Although we've been working very closely with the county, we've gotten geometry for the proposed bridge over to the airport, at least this first span that would span the railroad, and the loading from that. So we've got maximum loads and maximum geometry by which we can design our foundations and our tower. And that's how we intend to move forward. Yes, Mr. Stewart.
That's the bridge to the airport. Where's the Amazon? Is that?
Douglas, you want to answer that?
This is all going to be together.
Amazon is it's 3 blocks further to the north. So this is where HQ2 is. This is here This is the central part, this is Crystal Drive, this is central part of Crystal City, extremely populous, right?
That's Crystal Drive, just so everybody knows.
Hang on, and it's, when we get sorted out, when we get the future of Route 1, which we want to lower, or then everything will be, there is a bus line there, actually a metroway line, a bus rapid transit. This is walkable distance to metro, so it's extremely well connected. And now this allows for not only pedestrian access from and to the airport, but directly to all the other. And so this multimodal hub proposition.
It'll be connected and ultimately multimodal for indeed, you'll have light rail transit, commuter rail, intercity passenger rail, buses and airport all in one hub. Like literally all within this half-mile radius. Be exciting.
Asking for no reason at all, would a shuttle, is there a facility there for a shuttle to come through that station that could take?
Asking for no reason at all. No absolute answer. I see why not. I mean, it's a good idea, perhaps. People, I know a lot of folks go from Crystal City to the Pentagon, our current station, and then there's ways to do that now today. So
Actually, so many employees of the national airport are wanting to go with bikes that they ask for a secure bike storage facility because there's too many, electric bikes that they cannot store inside the safety perimeter of the area. Nevertheless, yes, it's absolutely feasible, and there is a plaza. It's visible there.
Yeah.
So we were thinking about that too. Yeah, this is really very, very important hub location. One question, in the previous schematics, in this schematic, there is an elevator.
sorry.
At the end of the yellow. So here there is no elevator, it's only.
So there's actually tunes shown in the right of way, just a slightly different configuration. And that's what we've been working through with Amtrak quite some time now, that the configuration of the elevator.
Elevators for Amtrak in this.
Sorry. Normally, we would do one and one only at the platform and one and the other end of the bridge. That's our standard. And VRE will be building two elevators, whether it's two in the right of way or one on the right of way and one off the right of way, or become negotiating. Yeah.
Because transportation elevators are insanely expensive. The reason for two elevators redundancy is because of ETA compliance.
It's not required for two. So it's not required for compliance. We're compliant with one elevator.
With an Amtrak.
It's a Amtrak preference, indeed. And they've actually asked for an escalator, which we've not designed for. That was a last minute ask. So we're designing the tower to receive these things under the pretense that Amtrak would be building a lot of those features. We would design the tower to receive them though.
Okay.
Sorry, keep going here.
And then we'll said light rail. I'm not aware of this.
Sorry, metro, light rail transit.
You
Yes.
said light rail. Okay.
Yeah, sorry. So heavy transit. Say heavy rail transit technically would be metro system. Yes, heavy rail transit, but light to me. I'm sorry.
I think of the purple line when I think of light rail.
Yeah. No. You're right. Great. So then the adjacent projects and related funding, I just want to make this point that we are kind of sharing some similar funding. The VPR CSX Alexandria fourth track is funded by VPRA as part of PRB, but designed and constructed by CSX. Their proposed construction will be underway as early as 2024, and then track construction right on the heels, and conceivably even by the end of 24, they may be under construction with fourth track. And the tricky part for us is having to slot in on that. As soon as they get those tracks moved over, before they get the fourth one built, we've got to come in and build our station. It may end up that we end up building between two tracks. One of them may not be in revenue service yet, but we may be between physically two tracks. Bristol City Station itself, our project, closely related with the fourth track, but funded by MBTA, MBTC, other sources here, and moving ahead with that. CC to DCA, make the point that Arlington is the lead agency, but also funded through MBTA, sharing that source of funds. We're very closely, joined at the hip with that project, and then the Amtrak high-level platform and their request to go with that. Finally, a couple slides, enhance the reasons we want to do this. It is enhance constructability, especially when it comes to safety, moving this as quickly as we can while they're out of the way, so to speak, before they get that fourth one built. It allows delivery of the station coordination without the, with the fourth track on time coming right behind it. It permits open design for the CCDCA. Basically, they've given us a canvas that says it's not going to be any bigger than this, and it's not going to weigh any more than this. And if you design to that, we will be able to build what we need to build when we're ready to build it. So basically, that's what we're ready to construct. It will enhance continuity and appearance. In other words, we want this to go together when it's done, right? It's a Martha Stewart catalog kind of thing where we want everything to look like it was done together and goes together, not a nice addition, a very nice addition to our project. And then finally, upcoming efforts. The next steps will be coming back to you. We're currently negotiating with our consultant for final design, up to 90%, I should say, for the elements that we just described. We'll come back to you for that in January. We continued coordination with our partners at JBG Smith, CSX, VPRA, not named here, but also Amtrak, working closely with them. And then public outreach. One of those is our customary Meet the Management program in the spring. We've done that historically here at the station, letting folks know what's coming. And then we'll have some project-specific events similar to our coffee talk that we've done construction-wise, but we get out and have a moment with the public on the platform. Thank you for your time.
Questions? Hopefully we covered most of the questions already.
Yeah.
Mr. Karantonis?
Just one comment slash question. So the first phase would produce the platform and the elevated part with the Amtrak
Stair tower. The stair tower. So the first phase would produce and the platform itself that we would put into service and could operate in perpetuity even without elevators and stair towers, right? But the stair tower, at least as I'll say skeleton, would be built so that it's ready to receive any future bridge. And we would likely build the stair tower for ourselves, at least one of the elevators and the short bridge over to the right-of-way edge. That's the piece that's really hard. That bridge especially, to erect a bridge over active track is incredibly difficult. We did it a while ago, but it is difficult. I want to do that. Even if it stops at the right-of-way edge and then we come behind that, the subsequent phase. And again, that could be concurrent. If we can get all the decisions made, that could be a concurrent construction. But at least for this point, we're going to build up to the right-of-way line, get that bridge built. It may be standing there, not ready for use until the second portion is built, but that's closely on the heels of that construction.
I mean, our intention is to have as good of a ready to continue project as possible.
Complete as possible.
We can continue as soon as
Yes, complete as possible so that it can all be completed as possible, as soon as possible.
Okay, all right, any other questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we have no closed session today, so we'll go right to operation board members time.
No, just want to say happy holidays to everyone and appreciate you entrusting me to be chair of the board here and forward to it. If you ever have any questions or concerns, reach out to me. Thank you.
Yeah, happy holidays. And I just wanted to thank everyone in here in the train experience. It is really well done and really joyful to watch people get on and off the train and also just really professionally. I mean, maybe we're on time, it's time to take on time, left and right, and was just really impressed and glad to be part of it. So thank you to everybody.
happy holidays. I'm sorry to have missed the Sunday train. It's not in my calendar for next year, so we don't have intractable conflicts. I enjoyed my first interview term here. I will definitely sign up for the finance committee. I hear you, Ms. Hayes. I believe that we have to make Spotsylvanians a very solid transportation asset argument. It's not just 40 people, it's the availability of the asset and transportation, the position of this transportation asset in a bigger metropolitan system. I really appreciate the comments from the city of Manassas and that. And I hope that we will have a very good and solid year to make the case further. I think rail has a renaissance in Virginia. You are absolutely right. And it's a good thing that's bipartisan and continues through different administration. This is really an asset, political asset, I would say. So really, very much.
Just happy holidays to everyone, and for those that are transitioning off, I don't think they're here, but just want to thank them for their service and looking forward to serving again next year.
Happy holidays. Thank you for the Santa train.
We had a big week last week at VPRA. I'll get to the 729 in a minute, but even the day before that, Rich was there and we awarded contracts for Long Bridge North, which is the little Long Bridge work in DC, including some significant bridges like 395, Main Avenue, and so forth. Which is a really big deal. This is happening, and also the Franconia bypass. So those are two really large procurements, and our the Bridge of Potomac package will be going with these RFPs that February. And then our own Takis was moderator of an event with 2 senators, governor, 4 members of Congress, plenty of other elected officials in the audience, including some here on the side of the table, Miss Bailey, who left, and James, you were there as well. So thank you for coming out. Rich got a shout out as well. And one of the trains went by as well during the event. So it's just a fun time. $729 million grant for Long Bridge, other phase 2 projects, all of which are in the VRE territory. They're in Prince William and Stafford and Fossey, which is all going to help VRE. And as aforementioned, the L'Enfant too, it fills a decent sized gap on L'Enfant. So thank you for everyone's support over the years. It's a big deal to have governor, the senators there, all saying wonderful things about VRE and track what we're doing. Is really the buy-in from the state. Jamie referred to this earlier. Is important. So thank you. See you next year.
Definitely happy holidays. Mike, do we get what we thought we would get out of those dollars? Is that pretty much where?
Filled our funding gap for phase 2. Phase 1 is already funded. We filled our funding gap for phase 2.
Win, a big win all across the board.
Yes, a really, really big one. We got a full requested amount.
That's kind of what I was trying to.
Which is rare. 4th largest grant in the country, and it wasn't. I don't believe it's a phase money grant. It's money that's already appropriated. So some other agreements are phased, so they could be estimated. But ours is not phased. So it's a big deal. It's a big sign from Senators Warner and Kane. For those who I'm sure you all worked with them, they go to bat for entities like this and for rail and public transportation.
I'm very proud that we're making the capital commitments to do what we know we have to do and be to frankly embrace the 21st century. So happy holidays, all of you. Thank you very much. I have enjoyed my service on the board and look forward to another year or so, depending upon what we decide we do these decisions in our next board meeting in January. So.
Happy holidays to everybody, and I'm sorry I missed the Santa train. That is, I was out of town.
Get it on your calendar.
I am going to. I didn't realize it was the same time as our trip. Otherwise, I would have modified my trip because I remember doing the Santa train when my son was a wee little one, and he loved it. It is such a great event. So thank you for doing that, and hope everybody has a safe and happy holiday.
Happy holidays to everyone. I unfortunately was not able to Santa train as well. We've been busy with all these things happening in my family and my million children. Looking forward to bringing on VRE soon. And so that's really it. Again, thank you for recapping that, Mr. McLaughlin, about the Long Bridge funding. And I'm really excited about the path forward and what we're doing, and that we've been creative and finding different solutions to make this work for different schedules and different people who don't normally ride the VRE. And I think it's bright. I think it's a bright future, not just because of the funding, but because we're being adaptive. And that's something that's hard to do when you gather a bunch of government officials. So I think we've done a good job, and I look forward to the coming year.
If I could, I know this is board member time, but I just can't, I could sit here all day on staff member shout outs and stuff like that. I do want to bring up a couple more. One of our senior associate accountants, Teresa Stevenson, we celebrated earlier this week with her. She's been with VRE at 20 years. At the end of the year, she'll retire. I guess to some degree, point we all want to get, right? So I just wanted to shout out to her.
Not you, Rich.
No, not me. But also so again, shout out to her. She's been a tremendous employee and sad to see her go. But also senior associate accountant Alicia Lewis, she's not going anywhere. But we did celebrate this past week with her. Very excited. Today she'll be graduating with her Bachelor of Science in Business Administration. And I'll just say she's a veteran. She has a 17-year-old son. And to be able to, being a somewhat non-traditional student myself, understanding how you have to navigate those paths to get all that done. And so I just, again, on behalf of the staff, we did have a nice moment, nice lunch with her yesterday and stuff to give her those, to give her those accolades. It's very well earned on her behalf. And then just finally, guy sitting in the back here, Robert Hostelka, he's also leaving us at the end of the calendar year to pursue some other opportunities. And I know a lot of you have Robert's given a cybersecurity update at least annually with the operations board. We'll find somebody else to do that. But 8.5 years at VRE, Robert got a tremendous opportunity, and so he's going to pursue that. And I'll speak at least on behalf of myself. You'll be missed, and wish you the best in your future endeavors, if you will. We know you're not going anywhere, but you'll just be leaving VRE. So anyway, that's it, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Robert. Thank you for your service to VRE. We're going to miss you. You've done incredible work and laid the groundwork. So thank you for everything that you've done. I just want to thank the entire VRE team, Rich and all the staff, for a great year in 2023. I said this at NVTC at the legislative summit, but I really think when the history of VRE is written, there are a couple of key periods, the early days that Steve can recount to us. And I think this is going to be the other key moment in the history of VRE. So when people look back decades from now and there are 40,000 riders a day, 50,000 riders a day on VRE, it will be because of the decisions that we made and the work that the VRE staff is doing now. I really believe that. So thank you for what you all have done in 2023. And to the board members, thank you for your work over the course of 2023. I know it's a year where folks had a lot of demands on their time, a lot of competing things going on, but your involvement and commitment to the board and to VRE really makes it all happen. So thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful holiday season and Happy New Year, and we'll see you in January.
And thanks for a great show.
Motion for adjournment?
So
Just keep this going.
All right.
Spin.
Yeah. It's at our